Okay, and welcome to another episode. Believe it or not, we're just logging these in every week to Tea Time with Mother and Crone. And before we get started, as always, Mylinda is going to tell us what's in our cup this week.
Hello. So this week we have blueberry tea. And the reason why we are talking about blueberry, and darn it, I meant to have a bowl of blueberries tonight. I was going to be all cute about it and have munch on blueberries while I was talking about it because actually I was wanting a snack also. But um, blueberries, a lot of people know. Blueberries, of course, are good antioxidants, good for the immune system. That a lot of people are familiar with that with blueberries. Lots of vitamin C, inflammation. It lowers blood pressure, so it's good for people with high blood pressure. But of course, as we always say, check with your doctor,
Please.
please, please. Um, Allergies, of course, because again, those antioxidants, vitamin C, it's going to help with those things. Also, skin disease, which I thought was interesting.
Oh,
Yeah, diabetes as well. So, a study for diabetes, a study in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition showed that because blueberry leaf tea was so high in antioxidants, that it could prevent and possibly heal type 2 diabetes.
oh, wow.
Yeah. And clinical trials show that blueberry leaf tea can lower blood sugar by up to 27%.
Oh, I think somebody's going to be drinking blueberry tea.
Yep. Whether he likes it or
Likes it or not.
not. Right?
Well, at
But then
least you can use the blueberries on anything, cereal,
you,
in a salad. I mean, I love them just
okay.
to pop
It,
them in.
I do too. I mean, and you can put it in like your yogurt, with the diabetics, you like the plain non-fat Greek kind of
Yeah,
yogurt.
but
And
you gotta do something with.
it really does have like a different texture, like that thicker texture taste. Because he was like, "Oh, it's not like my fruit on the bottom." It's totally
Yes, I know. That's the
yeah,
difference between Greek yogurt and American yogurts.
right. It's also a good to strengthen capillaries. Blueberry leaf tea
Oh,
strengthens the veins, arteries, and capillaries throughout the body. Another reason for him to have it. Um,
we'll be experimenting on him for years to
I
come.
know, I know. Call me. So I'll start calling him Frankie for short. Frankenstein. Actually, the monster to be correct. Um, but blueberry leaves also heal the female reproductive system.
Oh,
It helps to heal fibroids with cramps, helps with PMS, and supports the well-being in general of the reproductive system, and tones the uterus and fallopian tubes.
now since
And
my equipment is shut down, but that's still good to know because if you still have your equipment and you're older, you still need to keep it in shape.
yeah, I mean,
So
and
that's
keep it in shape. I mean, it says tone your uterus. I
right.
mean,
But I mean, it's
that
still,
sounds like a good thing to have. I want a toned uterus.
of course you do.
Just saying,
Mine's
I
all
will
whacked out of
pump
shape.
you up.
Really, but seriously, I mean, people, when women get to be a certain age, they're not
Yeah.
using equipment. So it's like, it's an afterthought. But like anything, you still have to take care of what you have. So,
Right. Well, even like, well, and in every situation is different. Like, I still have the equipment, but it can still be an afterthought because I don't have a cycle every month because I have the chip in my arm, so I don't have
right.
children. So it's like, I don't really think about that either. Although I was thinking about it a lot a couple weeks ago because, it was like I was having it. I had cramps for like the first time in almost 4 years. Oh, horrible cramps. But that red raspberry leaf tea though that we talked about on an episode at one point really helped with it.
See, people laugh about that. The company I work for has some Airbnbs, and somebody complained because we didn't have free tea for them. Oh, it would have been nice to have some tea, some herbal tea. And
Mm.
so they were going to run out and get herbal tea. And I'm like screaming, no, you don't know what people are allergic to. Don't, no, no. So my boss is like, what are you talking about? I'm like,
Oh,
dude, don't play with herbals unless you
yeah.
know what you're doing. We had regular tea there, but this person, I guess, wanted like celestial seasonings or something.
Right, right.
You can do that, but you've got to be extremely careful. And
You're usually safe if you have like the generic like Earl Greys or breakfast
that
blend.
kind of thing. But he
Yeah,
wanted an herbal
yeah,
tea.
yeah. No.
This guest was, some of these guests are unbelievable. I mean, we
Go to
leave
Publix
a
and get
free
it yourself.
bottle of wine, they get all kinds of coffee and water, and that's all freebies. And we leave breakfast bars for them and everything. And oh, they didn't have herbal tea. I was like, okay. But what I was trying to tell him is you just can't plop herbal tea in there unless you put a warning on it. Because if someone has allergies, and gosh knows you live in Florida, whether you have them or not, you got them. Okay.
Right,
Because
right.
Florida stays pollinated.
Whether you know you have them or not
Oh,
is more like
you can
it.
hear me. I'm stopped.
If you
But
don't have them, you will soon enough.
you will. And you got to remember chamomile's a flower, lavender's a flower. And if you have allergies, sometimes those teas can kick it off. If
Yeah,
you're already in the throes of agony over your allergies and you drink a chamomile tea, because sometimes it is prepared with the flower, you have to be careful. And he was like, how do you know that? Don't ask. Don't
you're
ask. I said,
like it's my other job,
yeah, well, I kind
my
of
tea job.
alluded to that I do have a podcast, and
Right,
he's like, "Oh my god!" And like, no, no, he's a 30 something, so
right, right.
I always
Yeah,
have
he
to
gets
razz him. But
right.
yeah, it's and that's why I told him, on our show we caution every week. We throw that caution out
Right.
there. Talk to your doctor. Make sure you talk to your doctor because you wouldn't think that little thing like a chamomile tea is going to kick off your asthma. Now, if you have allergies, it can send you into an asthma attack, and drinking chamomile tea can possibly cause it if it's made with you got to know what it's made with and what you're allergic to.
And not even just allergies, but like we've mentioned before, certain medications react differently. So you
Yeah.
really pay attention to that type of stuff. Now, another thing is, and we've talked about before, you want to buy organic. So we've mentioned that before. Um, Now, you can still get the benefits. You don't necessarily have to do a tea. Of course, we've mentioned before, if you do a tea, you can make it a little ritual. But like with most things, you can do them in a capsule form. There's powders, you can do them as tinctures. There's lots of different ways that you can still get the benefits. They
One of
do
the
have,
great ways to do it, and people stop thinking about, because blueberries are only out for a short season. They're not.
mm,
Oh, you can't always get them fresh, but you
right,
can get them frozen. And
yes.
you put that in the blender, a little bit of yogurt, a little bit of ice, hit the button, especially if you got a bullet, and you got a blueberry smoothie. So you've got all the benefits right there.
Yes. Yes. And a lot of people don't realize the leaves have the benefits. Like it's not just the berries. The leaves have the antioxidant benefits and all of those benefits as well. And that's what you're making your tea out of. It's not the berries necessarily. You can put the dried berry bits in there too, but you're mainly using the leaves. Now, of course, when you're eating them in your salads or anything, you're going to get those benefits, but it's the leaves that you're using mainly for the teas, but you're still getting those benefits. Now, it also helps with retinopathy, cataracts, glaucoma. Um, it does have a green grassy flavor similar to green tea, um, but it has an extra added flavor if you're using like the dried blueberries. It can be mixed with other teas and fruit juices. Um, it also helps with arthritis and inflammation, and it can also help with neurodegenerative disease. such as
Ooh.
Parkinson's and Alzheimer's.
So you can't go wrong having blueberries any way you can get them.
Right, exactly. Now, of course, we have to talk about the magical.
Well, that's what I want to hear. What's magical? I just can't imagine.
I know. It's like, who would have thought a blueberry? So, there are some things that, um, I mean, if you think about it, so when we think about chakra work, especially if you do Reiki, you may be more aware of chakras and the colors, which both of you and I do. But those of us that don't, and depending on what system you use, the colors can vary sometimes. But blueberries are very good for work with your throat chakra.
Oh. Now,
Yeah.
see, I would have thought you would have said the sacral because we were just talking about the uterus.
Hmm.
So I would have went right with sacral. I wouldn't have
Yeah.
went with throat at all. That's
So
interesting.
medicinally, it is good for the reproductive system, because of the antioxidants and the other benefits that it has. But magically, because of its blue color and its appearance, and the throat chakra being blue, it's very good for throat work. So when you are needing that extra oomph for communication or whatever type of spell work you might be working for the throat, I know personally that, is something that I would need it for or have used it for in the past. Needing help with, speaking my mind, or, standing up for myself, or, something like that.
I've
You know,
never had that problem. Most people will tell you Pam has never had that.
right, right. Exactly. So, um, now some folk names are bilberry, which,
Heard that one.
yes, and that's actually, you'll hear more when you're reading stories about Lunasa, which we'll talk more in the second part of our show. You'll hear it when you hear stories of Lunasa, which have a Celtic origin. You'll hear more about bilberries. So you'll hear them referred to as bilberries, but they are talking about blueberries, what we would know as blueberries. So I thought that was interesting. Cowberry, which I thought was interesting, like a moo cow. Cow.
Yeah, they eat them. I will tell you that they do. And they eat blackberries and raspberries also.
Right.
So,
Crowberry.
crowberry. I've never heard that one.
Not me either. Partridgeberry.
We don't have a lot of partridges in this country, so maybe that's why
Right. Maybe not.
that
And
might be a European thing.
it possibly may be. And then a whortleberry. WHOR.
I've seen that name. Is that what they were talking about?
I guess
If
I've
you
never
read
heard of
some
a whortleberry.
old English rhymes, children's stories,
Oh.
I've seen it there, but I didn't know what it was.
Ah.
Aha.
Well, that's what it is, apparently. Now, the gender is feminine.
Ah,
Element is water and earth.
yes.
The planets are Moon and Venus.
Of course
Makes
it is.
sense. Especially being water. Um, the signs that rule blueberries are Cancer and Pisces.
Ooh,
I know, interesting.
but you had Earth in there, so where are we at? Where's the
I
Taurus
know,
at? Well,
I know, I know. Um, And it's funny because I'm Aquarius, which is a water bear, but it's an air sign. So
that one I can't explain.
I
Okay.
know, and I leave it to me to be an Aquarius.
Now, see, I'm a Taurus. There is no explanation needed. It is
Right,
just out there, and y'all know, so y'all know how to treat me. Feed
exactly.
me and walk away.
My mom's a Taurus, so I already know. I'm already primed. And the deities that rule blueberries are Artemis, Cernunnos, Hyrne. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. I'm just Hearne. Hyrne,
Mhm.
Luna,
Heron or Hearn.
or Hern. I was going to say it that way initially, but I wasn't sure. Luna, the horned god, and Selene.
Ah, Kiernanos.
Hmm.
That's pretty cool, though.
And then it's also, so the throat chakra and also the heart chakra. Now, magical properties are beauty and youth. You can create enchanted natural makeup using the powdered fruit. You can use the powdered fruit and use like eyeshadow. You can make it as eyeshadow. You could
Blue
also,
lipstick.
yeah, I was gonna say you can also use like blue lipstick. um, it says you can also empower blueberry green tea as a youth potion to help fight aging. And so we talked,
But
uh,
with the antioxidants, it's already
right. That's
naturally doing that. So, I mean,
also, I think I skipped over it, but one of the medicinal things it said was also for, I believe, skin disease was
yeah,
one
you
of
said skin disease. So, I mean,
them.
that would make perfectly good sense.
Right. So
If
if you're ingesting it and I mean, yeah, so green tea, and then if you're eating it, I mean, yeah, you're drinking it and you're eating it. I mean, it's
wearing
all
it, I mean, you can't go wrong with it.
right. You're eyeshadowing it up. um, it also says that it helps for calming. So you can also do it for meditation. It says to brew a tea and use before meditation or after a long day. It also helps with memory. So it says meditate on an improved memory with a blueberry over your third eye. So it's saying you can actually use a physical blueberry and hold it over your
But you
third
were
eye.
saying it's good for Alzheimer's also in the
Yeah.
medicinal part.
Yeah.
So, hold it over your third eye and then eat it.
Yep. That's exactly what it said. I was just about to say it says hold it over your third eye and then you eat the blueberry.
Okay.
Yep. Mother's protection. It says decorate the mother's belly with a protection charm using pigment from the powdered berry.
Oh, you do that on your little belly. That would be
Yeah,
so cute.
I know. I thought that was sweet. For peace, during a full moon, roll a dressed white candle in the powdered berry to use during peace rituals.
That is an awesome idea to dress a candle. Would have never thought of that.
I wouldn't have either. I thought that was really neat.
Hmm.
Protection, powdered dried berries. Um, and you can powder dried berries and add them to your salt circle. String the dried fruit onto a cord to use as a talisman or protection charm against black magic. Wear a piece of the bush's bark or a stem as a talisman.
Oh, I bet that would make an awesome wand.
Oh yeah, I bet it would.
Yeah.
Psychic protection. Bake a pie or brew a tea to protect yourself from harmful and intense energies or negative energies.
Hmm.
Regeneration. Empower and eat blueberries to help your body's muscle tissue regenerate. So, again, that's sort of intention, like we've talked about, manifesting. So, yeah. Hell yeah, blueberries.
I mean, I knew they were good for you. They've been saying that for years, but I didn't realize it had all of that going for it. I mean,
I know.
I just thought they were really good for a smoothie. And I love them, but
I do too. I've always loved
it's
blueberries.
such a short, it's kind of like those in Bing cherries. They got such a short time that they're out. You can't always get them fresh,
I
even here
know.
in Florida, which really surprised me.
Yeah. So I wanted to talk about blueberries.
I think that's great. And I mean, if you just think about grabbing them and throwing them in your cereal, kind of like strawberries,
Hmm.
or you're right, in yogurt. I love them in yogurt.
Oh yeah, it's
That's
my
the best. If you go to Publix or Winn-Dixie, they have them
mhm.
mixed. The yogurt with the little crunchy stuff, and it's on a little thing. Then you mix it all up when you get to
Oh
work.
yeah, Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's the bomb. But
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
some
absolutely.
really good stuff.
And I mean, I know muffins aren't the best for you, but my favorite is always a blueberry muffin.
Oh, girl, I just found a mix where you just add water and you put it in the microwave and you get a blueberry muffin.
Oh, nice.
Yes, I did. Hey, if it comes to food, I can tell you how to do that.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I picked them up the other day. I was shopping at Walmart, of course. I go people watching and shopping. So,
Speaking of Walmart, look at this cool shirt.
oh,
We
and
had
weren't we
our
just talking about symbols?
we were talking about symbols last week and the yin yang, and look at this shirt that I found today at Walmart. Go Walmart. And it's tie dye. I love tie dye. So yeah, I was
You were
excited. I
just born
found
in
this.
the wrong generation.
I seriously, I so was. Well,
I
I
was
don't know because I also have my. I mean, I was and I wasn't because I'm also wearing my like Nickelodeon Rugrats shorts as well.
okay.
I mean, I was and I wasn't because I also listened to like Jimi Hendrix and Janis Joplin. So,
My kind
I
of
mean,
my era.
yeah. So,
Yeah. Did you know that this date back in 1969 Woodstock was held?
yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
me.
I
I, I
couldn't
definitely
remember
was.
the date.
I think I was all except for 90s Nickelodeon. I think everything else, yes, but 90s Nickelodeon.
There you go.
Yeah.
Woodstock was fun. Speak to the old ladies about Woodstock.
Right. So, speaking of symbols, that leads us to this week's topic, and we're going to delve into a little bit more symbols. We're going to change it up a little bit. So, last week was fun, but this week is going to be a little bit more fun. We're going to talk about symbols in your dreams.
Now,
Woo.
there has been a very interesting thing that I've been reading. Um, I don't always remember my dreams. And when I do, I try to remember to write them down as soon as I wake up because they're fleeting and they're gone. But
Mhm.
have you ever had that one dream that just hung around for a while and you could keep remembering it?
Mhm.
I've heard that the interpretation of that is it's not a dream, it's a message. You need to pay attention to it. That's
Interesting.
why you can remember it.
Interesting.
So I thought that was really interesting because you really don't always remember your dreams.
No. Yeah.
You dream every night. People go, "Oh, and you dream." No, yeah, you do. You literally dream every night, but you may not remember it because that's your mind's. That's why sleep deprivation is so detrimental to your health because
Right.
that's when your brain gets a chance to wind down and put everything away where it's supposed to go. It's kind of,
Exactly.
if you think about it like housekeeping, and if you don't sleep, like you don't clean your house,
Right.
crap happens. So
Yeah.
sleeping is very important. Your dreams are important. And there's always been with witches and with spiritual people, if you're having trouble making a decision or trying to figure out something, you write it down, you put it under your pillow, and you go to sleep. That's been done since people learned how to write.
Right.
That's something that's always been done. And what it is if you put it under your pillow, what happens actually in your brain is you go to sleep and you're thinking about it because it's under your pillow and that's the last thing you think about. So that's kind of where the dream goes. And your brain works on it, your subconscious works on it while, it's cleaning house. Kind of like you running around, doing your best impression of the movie. Yeah, we all know the movie, right?
Right.
So you're going to come out there with your little in your underwear and slide into the front room.
Risky
Yeah.
business. Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Um,
I didn't
so.
exactly slide. I kind of flopped. Anyway, um, but it is a way of doing that. So people do keep dream journals. And
Hmm.
as witches, we are also told to keep a journal. And if you have your journaling book at your bedside, because I usually write at night before I go to sleep. Um, and that's when I make my list of things to do. I do all kinds of stuff. My journal is a combination of everything under the sun, like everybody's. But if you write down the stuff that you're trying to figure out, and you write it down and you put it in your journal and you go to sleep, sometimes you'll get the answer in the morning. But then
Right.
sometimes you have these really weird dreams.
Oh my gosh. So just to piggyback on what you were saying real quick. So I did find some information. Um, we forget 90% of our dreams. So just piggybacking on what you say. Within 5 minutes of waking up from the dream, approximately 50% of the dream is forgotten. Within 10 minutes of waking up from the dream, approximately 90% of the dream is forgotten. So if you're not keeping a dream journal, consider getting a dream journal, because as soon as you wake up, and make sure you have a pen right next to it so you're not scrambling half asleep looking for a pen. So that as soon as you crack an eyelid open from your crazy, weird dream, you can write down everything and just bullet points, just like enough for you to get as much detail as you can to where you can understand it. Because I know for me personally, because I am one of those that have those crazy, off the charts, weird ass dreams. And I'm like, wake up and I'm like, what the hell? Like, there's no way, I mean, to interpret it,
It's like you don't even want to tell your psychiatrist because you're going to get labeled and put in that
right?
padded room for a few days.
So it's like those, especially make sure you write down, because it's something that you'll want to definitely evaluate down the line, or it may make sense to you down the line. It may be something that winds up happening, but definitely the those off the wall, and like you said, don't have to be complete grammatically correct spelling, because you're gonna be groggy, just make sure you get as detailed, pay attention to the symbolism.
And for those of you that have OCD, get a book without lines. And I mean
Yes.
that seriously, because then you can just, if you have to,
Right.
you can draw it, something that you
Yeah.
saw. But if you get it without lines, you're not focused on writing on those lines. You're just focused about jotting it down very quickly.
Right. And then just focus on your main points. And then you can always fill in the details as you remember them later, but get your main points in that you can. Um, Write down your keywords, your feelings. How did you feel? That's super important. How did the dream make you feel? Um, a lot of people don't
And a
think about.
lot of people do not dream in color, something I
Yeah,
didn't know. I'm a color dreamer. They said that's not normal.
I am as well. It's not
Oh,
normal.
yeah, it's not a trait that's normally known. Most people do not dream in color. There's only a few people. It's a smaller percentage of the population dreams in color. Um, and I thought that was really weird because I thought everybody dreamed in color because I'll say in my dream it was green and they're like,
I did too.
"You're
I
you
dream
saw
in color.
color?" And
I
I'm like,
didn't know that.
yeah. There is a disparity in that. Some people dream in color, some people dream in black and white. So that's another note you might want to make if it's in color or if it's in black and white.
Yeah, because it might vary.
It
Huh.
it does vary on a lot of people.
Mm.
I mean, the ancient Egyptians thought dreams were a different way of seeing, and they just thought it was they were interpreting the dreams. They thought they were very important to understand and understand why they happened. The Greeks and Romans thought that dreams were windows into the future or they were a visitation from the dead.
Mm.
Now, if you dream about somebody who has died, and you do that on occasion, and it's probably because something during the day has reminded you subconsciously of that person. And then all of a sudden it's like, whoa,
Yeah.
you dream about them. So it could have been somebody mentioned their name or mentioned a name that was the same, and you do that. You have to remember, we still don't understand this thing we have up in our head a whole
Right.
lot. We're trying to figure it out. So we're not quite so sure because Freud, and we all know about Freud, don't we? Everything had to do with sex and your mother. Um,
Right.
Ooh, that wasn't nice, was it?
Nurture
But
versus.
he, he always thought that they represented repressed wishes bubbling their way to the surface. Now, I don't know about you, but I've had some weird ass dreams, and I sure as hell don't want to see that bubbling to the surface. I want to
Right.
keep it back in that little head and just, down, boy, down.
Yeah,
Because there was
exactly.
some weird shit I don't want bubbling up.
And this is actually one of the things it says here. Was it in black and white or color?
Yeah.
Were you watching it like a movie? Was it like a series of photos?
Or were you actively in thought?
Mm,
Because you can have a dream where you're basically watching a movie,
right.
or you can have the dream where you're running or doing something in the dream.
Right.
And I had one
Yeah.
about 7 years ago. I still remember. I was trying to scream and couldn't scream, and I was
Yeah.
making a noise,
Yeah. I've actually had a dream similar to that. That's
and
odd.
I was scared, and I couldn't get the scream out. Is
Right.
what it was, and this was, I know, about 8 years ago.
Mm,
So it was really bizarre, and I'm still remembering it. So when I read that thing about if you remember a dream, it's a message.
right.
I'm trying to figure out what that message was because it was so. The dream is still as clear now as it was 8 years ago.
Yeah. I have a couple like that. It's so odd. Another few things is who was in your dream? What role did you play? Were you just an observer, just like you said? Um, were you were you wearing clothes? Were the clothes appropriate? What time period was it
What
set
time
in?
period? Yes.
Because there is, um, you can past life regress in your dream. You can astral project. You can, it's not super common. You have to be you know what you're doing. But if you know what you're doing,
But
it can happen.
also, it'll tell you the period or the time frame you were dreaming about.
Right, right.
So if you're
Uh,
wearing a hoop dress, you know it wasn't last week.
right,
You
exactly.
wear hoop dresses.
What was the weather like? What emotions appeared? Was there a light bulb moment? So there's different things like that you want to pay attention to. A few other things for understanding your dreams as a story. So the setting, where did the dream take place? Again, what people were in your dreams, the action which takes place, so the plot or the conflict, the symbols, so parts of the dream that represent something deeper, the theme, what you believe the dream to be about, and the mood or tone describes the emotions and feelings in the dream. So, again, it's important to pay attention to how you feel about the dream because usually your intuition at some point will kick in. I mean, sometimes you just wake up and you're like, "Oh, well, that was weird." But then
Right.
sometimes it'll be weird, but it'll kind of freak you out and you know what I mean?
The being chased dream is one that most
Right.
people have had at some point or another.
Mhm.
And that's one of the most common dream symbols in all cultures is being chased. And it means that you're threatened, but it may be your threat is physical, mental, emotional. You don't know what's behind it, but you're running from something.
Right.
Um, and and if you interpret it certain ways, it could mean that you're physically, being threatened. But a lot of times it's a perceived threat, what you perceive danger, so you run. It's that flight or fight thing. So
Mhm.
that's kind of very interesting. If that dream and the dream of falling and landing, God, I hate that dream.
Oh my gosh. Or it's not the dream, but it's like, if you fall asleep with your head down and then you feel like you're falling and you you jump up, that sort of thing. Oh,
If you're laying down and you're sleeping and you have the feeling that you're falling, that it used to be said,
yeah.
the old wives' tale was if you hit the ground, you're going to die.
Yeah.
Feel
Yeah.
yourself hit. You usually wake up before you hit. But that is a very common dream symbol, and it relates to your anxiety.
Mhm.
And it relates to you're either not letting go of something that you need to, or you're losing control.
Right.
So you're doing one or the other. So it is a matter of letting go. And that's a scary one for a kid because I know as a child I used to have them. I have night terrors. So that's a whole nother thing. You don't want to know about that. But
Right.
that falling, and that's a very common. Now, another thing, a lot of the dreams, if you have children, they don't understand.
Right.
So if you have kids and they all have dreams and nightmares, I mean, how many times you've been woke up in the middle of the night with a screaming kid that had a nightmare, I'm afraid, or, the 5-year-old is crawling in bed with you and you're like, what? And they're like, oh, I was dreaming and I was so scared. Can I sleep with you? You
Yeah.
know, this is when you need to start learning dream interpretation just a little bit,
Hmm.
just so that you can calm. And because if you say, oh, it's okay, nothing's going to happen, that only lasts till they're about 5 or 6. And then they start questioning that
Right.
and they want to know why they dreamed about it. So, not that you want to fill their head with a bunch of craziness,
Hmm.
but you kind of want to comfort them. So, if you can say, well, what were you dreaming about? And if they can tell you a little bit, then maybe you can make some sense out of it for them just so that they calm down a little bit. Because for a child, that dream really happened in reality because
Right.
they haven't learned to make that separation yet. So when the
Exactly.
little one comes in, a little 4-year-old comes padding into your room crying because they've been scared by a dream, then you need to allay their fears, but you also need to give them a little reassurance. And if they dreamed about a rabbit, say, "Oh, well, must have been your teddy bear or your little bunny that you take to bed with you," kind of thing. You don't want to over under evaluate their dream, but you don't want to over excite the child too.
Right.
So
Right.
it's that common ground. Um, some of mine had really bizarre dreams, and they'd wake up in the middle of the night, and the next thing you know, you feel this thing creeping in bed with you, and you're like, ah, and you're having your own nightmare at that point because your kid's done scared the crap out of you crawling in bed.
Right. Yeah,
But
I
yeah,
go through that now with Fiona.
uh,
She will just crawl in bed like in between us. Luckily, we have a king size bed and there's plenty of room, but still, she manages to be. I still manage to be on 2 inches on the edge of the bed, and she's all the way smacked up against me. And then there's all this room in the middle, and then and I'm just like, and then I'm waking up like right now. My neck is just, my shoulder is so tense, and I'm just like, eh. It's like always.
it's funny. There was a meme on there, how you think you look when you're sleeping with your child, the angelic
Yeah, like,
little child next to mother. And yeah, and the reality is the foot in your
the
face.
foot in the face, and it's like, eh.
And they lay this way across the bed. How can something that small take up that much room?
She legit punched me in the face the other night.
Oh my
She,
God.
she rolled over. She rolled over to like just roll over, and when she rolled over, she went badoom, and I was like, oh, and I was like, Fiona, you hit me in the face, and she's like, oh, sorry, mom, love you. And I was like, oh my god, it's like,
Yeah.
it's like getting no sleep. So I wanted to go over a few things, just piggybacking on what you were saying. So yes, definitely validate your kids, because like you well, and of course parent your kids the way that your parenting style fits, of course, but in my opinion, I've always talked to my parenting style. I've always talked to my kids. I mean, not like adults, but my kids are mature for their age. So, kind of like you're saying, I would kind of explain it to them so that they understand, um, and not sort of like, oh, there's nothing there.
Yeah.
So,
When you start doing that with a kid, then when they come to tell you important things, they think that
right,
you're just going to brush them off too.
right, exactly. So then it makes it a little harder. So when you're talking about like the falling, so the interpretation of that could be feeling unstable or needing to balance. So then by you as the parent knowing that interpretation, then you could then take that, if your child is saying, oh, I'm having these scary dreams of falling, since you know that that means feeling unstable or needing balance, you can kind of work that into, okay, well,
And with a child losing control, children have very little control over their lives, honestly, because we do everything for them. And
Right.
we have to because we're their parents. So sometimes they feel like they're losing control.
Right.
And if you give them a little control in their life, then they feel that that's one way of giving them a whole lot later on because they feel in control, they feel secure about it, they have something. So
Mhm.
as they mature, them having that control gives them a lot of self confidence because they are in control. And my son had a repeating nightmare. Repeating nightmares can be from anything, and
Yeah.
they will tell you that it can only be worrisome if they keep you up every night because you don't get any sleep. But we had to tell him in his dream to remember, you're in a dream, say, I'm in a dream, I want it to stop.
Hmm.
And believe it or not, he did it and it stopped
Mm.
because he shut down his brain.
Right.
He consciously made that decision. Once he learned, he was about 6 when that was happening. So once he learned he had that control,
Hmm.
then he says he started having another bad nightmare. And we found out later he was watching stuff he
Mm.
shouldn't have been watching, not at our house, at a friend's house. So
Uh-huh.
yeah, mom found that one out. But he was sneaking and watching it, and it was a little too mature for him. It was a video game that had a lot of violence in it, and he was not mature enough to handle it. So
Yeah.
it was reoccurring in his dream. So he learned he had that control. Once he got that, he realized that he could stop his dream if he didn't like it.
Mm.
And
Nice.
then he had control over his dreams. Now, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, so you have to explain it. But a lot of times that's a way to stop it. Now,
Yeah.
it's not going to stop night terrors. I'm going to tell you that now because at my age, I'm still having them.
Yeah.
It doesn't stop that, but it does give them a little bit of control, which they normally don't have. Now they have a little bit of control over that part of their life.
Mhm.
And that's a big part of their life because they spend a lot of time sleeping.
Yes.
So giving them that is really good. Now, symbols and dreams can be awesome.
Yeah, and that's why we were saying it's important to keep a dream journal, because by doing that you'll be able to keep track, because we do forget so many of the dreams. You'll be able to go back and look what exactly you have that's reoccurring, in those symbols, in those patterns, in the characters, in the settings, in the time periods. And a lot of times, the characters actually in the dreams represent parts of ourselves, and not actually people.
Right.
So that's another thing to look into as well. Um, and I had some things to touch on as far as dream interpretations and symbols. What were you going to touch on?
Well, some of the dreams you have to remember are not going to make sense. People try to interpret every dream you have. Sometimes they're not sure because we still don't know how all of this works. But they do say that sometimes if you have a dream and it's really bizarre, it might just be what you ate before you went to bed, literally. Um, you have to take in, if you have a high stress job or a high tension job, your dreams can be very frightening because you're under so much stress at night. You're trying, if you can't unwind before you go to sleep and you go to sleep stressed, um, it'll show up in your dreams on occasion. And you'll get those, you've missed the bus, you're running for the bus, or you're running after something that you can't see, and every time you get close to it, it runs further away. You feel like you're, moving, but you're not. And that could be from so much stress. You just feel like you're not releasing that stress. That's why it's extremely important before you go to bed to have a set routine, if you can, and relax before you go to sleep.
Exactly. So have that blueberry and chamomile tea for that calming and meditative.
Freud, I love Freud. I really did when I was taking my classes. I'd love to get into Sigmund Freud. I would love to get him on a couch. Really, I would. Because he blamed everything on sex or your mother.
Right.
Both. Everything had to do with sex and everything had to do with your mother. Um, but a lot of dreams mean just what they are. I mean, if you dream about a radio or a TV, you're dreaming about communication.
Right.
There could be a
Yeah.
communication issue.
And yeah, and that's what I said. Sometimes you don't want to overthink it. Um because if you think about it, like feeling naked,
Oh,
it means
nudity.
feeling, it can mean feeling vulnerable. I mean, think about it.
But it also can mean that you're revealing your true self to others.
Yes, or it could also mean that you're hiding your true self.
Yes. Or it could be suggested, if you're Freud,
Mhm.
it suggests sexual urges or desire for recognition.
Yes, I have
So
heard that
we
as
are going
well.
to throw Freud right under that bus every time.
Now, a few common ones that I wanted to touch on as well. I'm sure we've all heard about your teeth falling out. Um, so, if you can't speak in the dream when your teeth is falling out, there's something you don't want to or can't say. If you can't eat in the dream, it may be about unfulfilled desires. And it says, in fact, some interpret this dream as inherently sexual. So maybe that was a Freud.
That's Freud right there. Had to do with
Uh,
sex.
and then another common one, you cheat on your partner or vice versa. That's a common one that you hear a lot about, meaning it might signal anxiety you feel about your partner, or it could also be that you saw someone attractive on, it gives the example on the bus, which is so ridiculous. But not all dreams, as you said, have a deeper meaning. It's more, it could be, whoever's the dreamer's insecurity. It could be, their own self-consciousness. It could be, just because they watched a TV show with sexy actors on there. I
And,
mean,
seriously, that can be it. Or, and I'm not joking, you go to the beach
mhm,
and you come home and you go to bed and you're dreaming about, you're laying on
right,
the beach and you see all these sexy guys walk by. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's just a replay of what you did in the daytime.
right,
So it
and
doesn't mean a whole lot.
right, exactly. And then also seeing a UFO, it says the meaning could be that something is invading your life or intruding on your space.
Or
The
you had
heavy
too much of that apple pie moonshine before you went to bed.
the heavy machinery might also be a sign of how you're feeling. Do you feel dull, like you're on autopilot? Um, so that was one. There was also of course, another big one is a baby.
Oh my
I
God.
think I was having a baby. Everyone talks about that one. Um, Now, a baby, there's a few different examples of the baby. So, if you dream of a baby being happy, it says joy, or if you, it just says baby, joy, responsibility. A crying baby is frustrated plans. Laughing is plans being fulfilled. A sleeping baby represents a waiting period and patience needed.
Mm.
So, and there's a bunch of like symbols, and of course you can find there's a bajillion dream dictionaries. Like they even have like illustrated dream dictionaries. They have,
That's great if it's illustrated in color and you dream in black and white. That's really going to help you.
yeah. Now, one thing I did want to talk about really quickly because it mentioned what the weather was like in the dreams. So a lot of people dream about water in dreams.
Yes.
So this went into a little bit of detail about the type of water, like as far as the how the water is. So clear water in dreams can be peace of mind or emotional balance. Dirty water in a dream can represent depression or uncertainty. A tidal wave in a dream can represent feelings of um, being overwhelmed, and also anxiety. Drowning, which a lot of people have difficulty keeping up with responsibilities, or depression, again, being overwhelmed. Rain is sadness, sadness or tears you're holding in. Flooding is a worsening situation. A pond or aquarium with fish is creative ideas or romantic possibilities.
Ooh.
I know.
Mm.
Mm. So I
The-
thought that was interesting.
those are really, and a lot of times it's choppy water or an
Yeah,
ocean. That's just unease because that's what it is.
right.
But for me, the ocean puts me to sleep. So when
Yeah,
I go to sleep, a lot of times I'm listening to ocean waves,
yes.
and that lulls me to sleep. I'm not one of those people that it bothers. My best sleep is either in the mountains or on a boat.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm on a boat that swaying, I know it makes some people really nauseous, but oh girl, I can sleep all day on a boat. But
Yeah.
again, if you're dreaming about it, you have to look at the position that you're in at the time. If you're super stressed and you're going crazy, the house, the job, the kids, the husband, your mother, his mother, and everybody else involved, and you go to bed and you dream about, being on a choppy ocean, well, it doesn't take a whole lot of thought to figure out why,
Exactly.
so but don't ever feel like your dreams are going to control you. It's not that
Right.
kind of thing. They're not even sure why we dream. There's a theory on it. There's lots of theories, but we can't prove it. We can prove sleep deprivation can kill you and drive you mentally unstable.
Yes.
We've got proof of that. It is a
Yes.
form of torture. But there's not a whole lot other than that we know about dreams, because you have different parts when you sleep.
Excuse
You go in, there's different brain waves that tells when you're in a deep sleep, REM sleep, which is rapid eye movements. That's when your eyes are going crazy. Now,
me.
if you have a sleep apnea, you do not go into REM sleep, which means you don't go into the dream, because that's when you dream is in rapid eye movement, is an
Right.
REM sleep. If you don't go into that, that's why that person is exhausted, because they have to go into REM sleep in order to wind down.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't do it, my late husband had sleep apnea really bad,
Right.
and it causes actual physical problems. The right side of his heart was enlarged by 15% because of his sleep apnea, because he wasn't getting rest. It was continually, it was overworking his whole body because he wasn't going into that deep sleep and getting that rest. Also, by not going into that deep sleep, he wasn't able to release at night. So he was like tense a lot, and of course he had high blood pressure, which that
Right.
just helped it so much.
Right. Of course.
It's the one thing runs into the other, but that's why when a person is sleeping and you see they're in rapid eye, you just leave them sleep.
Right.
Yeah, and if
Exactly.
a child's having a nightmare, cuddle them, but don't wake them up if you don't have to.
Mm-hmm.
They'll either go back into sleep or they'll naturally come out of it if you're there. But don't run in real quick. That used to be back in the day. They used to tell the mothers to go in and wake them up. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that's great. Kids having a nightmare, you wake him up right in the middle of it. You just scared him to death.
Right. Yeah, so that's what we wanted to touch on, dreams. So, just a little tidbit. I'm sure we'll talk about dreams again. There's so much we could talk about dreams, but we just wanted to touch on dreams. And we're going to do our little commercial break and let you know that you can email our keyword of the week to teatimemc@gmail.com, which is THYMEMC@gmail.com. And the only thing you have to do to enter is email the keyword and go to our YouTube channel, Tea Time with Mother and Crone, and subscribe and go to our Facebook page with the same name. And then you can click the little bell if you want and watch us live when we record on YouTube on Wednesdays or Thursdays, depending on our schedule. Get a little sneak peek before we stream on Facebook on Sundays. And this week's keyword is going to be dreams.
Go figure. We made it.
And you get a chance to win Tea Time
Yeah, I
merch.
still have some sitting over here in the corner that I really need
Yep.
to get rid of.
And if you already have Tea Time merch, please, if you feel so inclined, take a picture and post it on our Facebook page. And it doesn't have to have your face. You can put it like in a backdrop of where you live in a pretty park or wherever. And we just think it would be cool to see where you guys are coming from. And thank you always for your support.
And you can always do the Mamas and Papas Dream a Little Dream with Me. Dream a Little Dream with Me. That's one of my favorite songs.
Oh, yes, yes.
Yes. But dreams are interesting. I just love people, you come up with some of the weirdest stuff and you wake up and go, ooh, that was like really Fruit Loop. And you write it down. Then you go back a couple years later and you're looking through your old journals. You're going like, oh man, what did I eat?
I found one the other day actually from my notepad on my phone, and it was from December 13th of 16 because um I didn't have my notepad next to my phone. So that's another thing you can do if you're in a pinch. I did not have my journal next to me. I had my phone on my nightstand, and it was 4:22 a.m. because I was like, man, I haven't gone through my notepad in forever. I probably have a bunch of stuff I need to delete, free up storage, and I was just looking, and I went to the bottom, and looked at it, and I was like, what the heck? And it says Dream Journal. And I was reading it and I was like, oh my God. And I sent it to Corey and she she was laughing. I don't mind reading it, but it just doesn't make sense. I told you it was loopy. So all it says is, and again, keywords, main points. So it's weird. So you've been warned. It just says heard front door close, and then in parentheses it says second time, and keys rattle. So I'm obviously like hearing my front door and someone's coming in the door. And then it says got out of bed. Erica, which is my eldest daughter, is standing in the middle of the stairs. Now this was December 13th of 16, so uh, she would have been 17. So she's 22 now. Okay. So Erica's standing in the middle of the stairs. So we're in a townhouse. We're in a 2-story apartment at the time. It says that, and then in parentheses, I put dressed and head down. And then it says she groaned, like she let out a groan and fell backwards down the stairs, rolling down and then unconscious when she landed.
Oh,
And then I put instinct was drugs or alcohol or both, which she's never done any of that stuff, like as a teenager or anything. So I don't know why I would have thought that. But then this is the part that made me laugh. It says Haley was on was on the stairs gagging like a cat with a hairball.
oh, Haley had a hairball.
Yeah,
Erica rolls back down the steps and is unconscious.
and then I said, and this part doesn't make sense. Again, 4:22 a.m., half asleep, okay. I said, and then I told her to go to the wood, and then in parentheses it said as if she were going to, and then I woke up.
Okay.
So I mean, that just goes to show you it just doesn't matter.
It doesn't. And some of them are so far fetched, but a
I
lot of
mean,
times,
clearly I was worried about my kids for one reason or another, but
and
I
it was
mean,
a
like
concern.
my daughter has never, and even now at 22, she goes out with her friends every now and then, but even then might have two drink. I mean, she's not a big drinker partier at all. So it's just kind of, and she never did anything like underage, like
But
nothing.
in your mind, she's 17, so you may have been a little concerned
But she
because,
was home like constantly. Like she never hung out with her friends ever because she, I don't know. It's just so weird. But yeah, so I mean, there you go. And 5 years ago, let's see, 5 years ago, Haley would have been 7.
yeah,
So
you would have,
she's
you would
gagging.
have had Fiona.
No, no. I would have been I December no, December of 16, Fiona was 2 months old.
See, that's that new mom when you're the hormones. And that's
And
another thing.
breastfeeding.
Women need to, women especially
The
need to,
breastfeeding will do that too.
yes, and you need to write down where you were in your cycle. They don't
That's
have that on
another thing
most people.
that is another thing I told Corey because I do not journal. I do not have a personal journal. And that's another thing I told Corey. And I've always been bad about that. I did it a little bit when I was a girl, diary,
Yeah.
dear diary. But as a so it would be one of those things I would really have to force myself to do to make it a habit until I got used to it. But that's what I told Corey when I sent this to her and we had a good hoo ha about it. um, I told her, I said, damn, I really need to keep like a personal journal so that I know what the hell was going on with me at that time, reading it years later, because why? To know like what might have triggered that. You know what I mean?
And
Because it would have
hormones
been interesting to know.
in your cycle
Yeah.
that can trigger your dreams, your
Yeah,
hormones,
because
because
Fiona was born October 11th of 16, and that was
okay, so
December.
you were still hormone crazy.
Yeah,
So that could be it. When you're
that
pregnant,
was December 13th of 16.
you
So
have
almost,
weird dreams when you're pregnant.
yeah,
You really do. You have all sorts of, I mean, bizarre dreams. And I remember I had some ones that were like, whoa, it was like something out of some Twilight Zone movie. But
yeah,
your hormones will cause that because they do interrupt your sleep cycle.
yeah,
And
yeah.
if you breastfeed, you are interrupting your sleep cycle to feed.
Ugh, I know. Yeah.
It's,
So it was just funny that I found that, and then I found my other dream journal, and that was a whole other thing. And it's just like my dreams are consistently weird. I just so, but yeah.
yeah, my night terrors are still bad. Um, they told me as a child I'd outgrow them. I'm like, you
Still
know,
waiting.
I'm still waiting. I really am. Now, some people have said I've never grown up. I believe that, but I still am having these horrible, horrible night terrors. You're paralyzed. You can't move.
Yeah, that
They're
sucks.
they're so much fun. Well,
Ooh.
let me tell you, what we're going to talk about next is absolutely strange. There's no other way to do it. Llamas. Llamas is just one of those off holidays that we celebrate that everybody else in the world celebrates too, but for all different reasons. So, um, we're going to hit the weird ones first. It is it is a, a festival, believe it or not, for St. Peter's Chains. It's
Interesting.
celebrated August 1st in the Catholic tradition. Yeah, you got to be real old school to know that one.
Mm.
How am I going? Now, this is what I didn't know. I call it llamas. Um, I can never say it. When you say it, I can say it, but when I try to say it, I can't say it.
Lunasa.
Lunasa. See that it doesn't.
The D and the H you don't say, it's silent.
Yeah.
So it's just Lu and then the NASA, and then you don't say the DH.
Because the word that I use, llamas, is actually an Anglo-Saxon word.
Mm.
Lunasa is the Celtic term.
Celtic term, yeah.
So that makes a big difference when you're speaking it.
It does.
That. It's also, believe it or not, it is the ancient Greek festival of Hecate and Artemis.
Hmm.
Ooh, now see, you didn't know that. So this adds just a spin to it. Now, um, it's the Romans turned it into the Nemoralia, and it's a combination of Hecate and Artemis. The Catholics, again, they do such wonderful things. It's the Assumption, also known as Mary of the Harvest. So
Mm.
it's the Assumption of Mary into heaven. Um, and it's also the Greek New Year, and it's the Italian holiday of Ferragosto.
Ooh, tell me what that is.
Oh, see, this is why, you do these wonderful things so that you know what the heck you're talking about. That is a little bit of a different holiday. Italian holidays are quite unique many times because they've lost what the Italians did, the Romans, was take a lot of the Greek holidays and the Greek gods and kind of spun them the way they want to. So you're going to get a lot of strange holidays because the Italians wanted to make it theirs, so they did one thing with it, and you hear about the Greek and they did something else, and then you're totally confused as to what the hell are you celebrating.
Right.
It's now, according to some calendars, it's actually celebrated August 15th
Hmm.
for the Italian holiday. And it is the Assumption Day. It's the day of the Assumption, which is what we just said it is. Millions of Italians, believe it or not, take their vacation in the 2 weeks before or after. And they take it because it's a national holiday and it's a holy day of obligation. So the Catholic Church requires you to go to church. I knew there was a holy day of obligation, but uh, they have everything. But it's a public feast and it's a Catholic feast and it's observed by actually the Italians and the Swiss.
Hmm.
But
Interesting.
the Assumption is celebrated through the Catholic Church, big time.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of like an all gathering one. Now we also know it as a loaf mass.
Hmm.
In the Catholic tradition, women would bake a loaf of bread, take it to 9 o'clock mass that morning, and the priest blesses them, blesses the first loaf. That is a holdover from the pagan times when you made the first bread out of the first harvest, because this is our first harvest festival. So you're bringing in some wheat and you're going to make a bread with it. And you make the bread. And then, of course, as pagans, we would call the divine over it and we would break bread.
Yep.
So we have a little bit of that going on there. So it's an interesting one. It's not a holiday that is really big like Samhain or Yule or something like that. It's one of the lesser known holidays. I kind of this one, Candlemas, they're kind of lesser ones, but we have a lot of fun with our holidays.
Yeah. Now, another thing I wanted to touch on. So, with it being Lunasa being a Celtic, what they call it. So, in a lot of Irish, depending on the part of Ireland, but they also will do what's called Bilberry Sunday. So, we talked about the blueberries.
There we go.
And they also have something called Garland Sunday. Now, so the Celtic festivals and rituals typically center around the harvest and celebration of the harvest cycle, like we talked about. The dates um, around Lammas and Lunasa can be a little confusing, depending on if they're using the which calendar they're going by because of how it was. But the old Celtic pagan festival lasted a month, with August 1st being at its midpoint. So that's when it's celebrated. It's currently most often celebrated on the Sunday closest to that date. But a lot of traditions celebrate it on August 1st. But The exact date usually falls anytime between August 1st and 12th. I thought it was interesting with the bilberry. So the name Bilberry Sunday comes from a tradition of gathering bilberries, which are blueberries, as we talked about earlier. If the bilberries were bountiful, the crops would be also. So it was sort of a premonition, if you will, a sort of a, blessing sort of thing. So I thought that was interesting. Also, the Feast of the First Grain Harvest, as we said. Garland Sunday is um, so called because garlands of flower and greenery are usually placed around most of the holy wells. These wells are found throughout Ireland and are most often dedicated to the patron saint of the parish. This day also marked the end of the hungry season, as people were now confident there'd be plenty of new potatoes, freshly baked bread, and baskets brimming with berries. So I thought that was neat.
Now, what's interesting in 1950, Pope Pius the 12th made Mary's Assumption on that date. Now, what's interesting is up until that time, it really wasn't celebrated as the Assumption of Mary.
Mm.
Um, it was the belief that her soul and her body, her actual physical body, went up into heaven. And there was great consternation in the Catholic Church about it. Um, but Carl Jung, who is, Sigmund Freud, um, said that this proclamation was the most important religious event since the Reformation. And he understood that the image of the feminine was coming back into the light. The Queen of Heaven was being acknowledged once again and given her rightful place, turning the Trinity into a quaternity and the symbol of wholeness. Now, you
Mm.
have to remember for a very long time, we had goddesses in the pagan.
Right.
When
Mhm.
Catholicism came along, because Catholics are the only ones who actually celebrate Mary. The other Protestant faiths really don't do a lot with her, but
Right.
the Catholics revere her. And that was always said that you had the god and the goddess in Catholicism. And that's something that they fought up until here recently because
Yeah.
they didn't want women in power. Women were not supposed to be in power. Now, if you remember, this is August the 1st. The dog days of summer are usually start around July to the middle of August. And then from the middle of August, your temperatures start to drop a little bit.
Mhm.
So, again, this is an important time because you're harvesting the fresh grains and grasses. Now, it's also celebrated that on somewhere around in Russia, August 19th, August 6th, somewhere in that neighborhood, the Transfiguration. It's called the celebration of the Transfiguration. Now, if you want high magic, go to a Catholic Mass because when the priest prays over the wafers and the wine, Catholics truly, truly believe their dogma is stated, it becomes truly the body and blood of Christ.
Mm.
You want high magic, you got high magic.
Right.
So, I mean, you can't convince me of anything else. But again, it's the Catholic Church was trying to, in some way, take this holiday and make sense of it
Right.
in their respective tradition. So
Mhm.
that's why you get that. Now, the Jewish holiday, Tish B'Av, is actually August 15th.
Mm, interesting.
And that is it's an emphasis on the heat of the summer and the feeling of dread, and it's derived from the Babylonian festival. It's held on the 9th of Av, a day of dread and sorrow. And the climax of a month-long celebration focused on torches and firewood. It's a deep day of mourning. It's where you go to say, yep, I've not been as good this year as I could have been.
Right.
So it's kind of a confession type thing. Um, but there again, the Jewish tradition bringing in from the pagan tradition.
Right.
Now, of course, the Greeks and the Italians celebrate everything for a month or so. We're not picky.
Yeah,
We'll
why not?
celebrate as long as we can. Um, and in Italy, the whole month of August is a holiday. Everyone is on vacation. Businesses are closed. It sounds like a custom we should start here. Um,
Yep, I'd
yeah,
vote for
I'm behind that one 100%.
it,
But
right?
again, it's one of those holidays that everybody has their hand in.
Yeah,
So no matter what traditions you celebrate, you are covered. Here we've got Russian, Jewish, Catholic, what else did I touch? Italian and Greek.
right.
And now if you're pagan, we're going to bring it back around to Lammas. So now
Heck
we're
yeah, man.
celebrating paganism again.
I'm all for it.
And this is from the god Lu, Lugh, Lu.
Yes,
Remember, it's Gaelic, and half the letters aren't pronounced anyway.
right.
Um, Now, some people say that William the Red was a Lammas sacrifice. Having made the wasteland of the kingdom, he was killed by the people as a sacrifice to bring new life to the land. So that's a little scary. And that was in the year of 1100, August the 1st. The monks in the abbey of Gloucester, get that out, was celebrating the holy day of St. Peter in chains. I don't know why we would celebrate it, but we do. Um, it's kind of an interesting thing. The
Right.
Saxons called Lammas loaf mass, and the Saxons are the ones who actually gave us more lammas.
Hmm.
And grain is honestly, it's the first harvest. You start now planning for winter.
Yes. Yeah.
This is an important harvest. This is your first harvest. Now, sometimes this one can make or break you. Because if you don't get anything, then you better hope for the next two. So,
Exactly.
yeah, you hope you get a lot for this one because once you get the grains, the sheaths brought in and you dry them out and you get the grain, then you turn it into some kind of flour.
Hmm.
Then you can hold it for a while. You can hold that grain for a while throughout the winter time. Um, and of course, we eat. Okay, that's the best part. We eat.
We always eat.
We I'm telling you, you cannot be thin and be pagan. I figured that one out a long time ago.
Yeah.
Um,
We honor the gods with food. I mean, hey.
and yeah, we honor the god with food and the goddess with food. So, I have
Right.
that goddess shape. I
Hmm.
look like, yeah,
Willendorf, baby.
Willendorf all the way. If you want a goddess shape, I got it. I got the rolls to go with it. Um,
Woo.
Now, everybody thinks that you need to make bread, but you can make this special by making gingerbread
Yeah.
or popcorn because one of the first things you're bringing in is what? Corn.
Yes.
So
Absolutely.
you don't have to go all out and get in there in the kitchen, and be Martha Stewart or
No.
Paula Dean and making bread. You can make gingerbread, which is kind of a cool thing to make.
Mhm.
Because you can shape it any way you want to. Now, remember when you're doing the the actual Lammas ritual, you need to have some kind of bread. Now, wouldn't that be cool to have a gingerbread man instead of
Yeah, that would be cool.
or popcorn?
And you can also do, like we were talking about, you can do, a blueberry muffin. You can do blueberry pie. You can incorporate blueberries.
I'm
Because,
telling you, you can do. I mean, muffins would be really nice to have. And seriously, that's
yeah, a blueberry muffin is bread and blueberries. There you go. Double punch.
there you go. In Ireland, the new potatoes, but in
Mhm.
Ireland they make everything with potatoes. And just, yeah, I made a cake with potatoes. Okay,
Oh,
when
you
I
told
took the
me
Irish
that.
culture course, I was like, really, you could do that? Um, and they tell you, if you're going to do it, you can make it in John barley corn. Okay,
Garlic
all are going
corn.
to have to look that one up, and you're all are going to have to do it because it's kind of cool. Um, but you do the shape. And like I said, you don't have to be traditional and bake actual bread.
No.
so many alternatives to it. It's just using the
But
grains of the harvest.
if you did want to have fun with it, you could, if you were baking bread, you could make uh, harvest knots. You could do different knots and
Garlic knots like they have from
stop it.
yes. Stop.
First the pepperoni rolls, now garlic bread.
Oh, told you,
It's stop
girl.
it.
It's that Willendorf just attacking me.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, you can do it in other knots. Some crafts that I wanted to touch on really quickly is you can, while we're talking about kind of going along with cooking and things like that. So we already talked about bread baking and shaping the dough like John Barleycorn or the dough knots. But you can go berry picking. That's something you can do, especially with the little ones. I know here in Florida we have strawberries everywhere. You could do the strawberry picking. We have blueberry farms here too. So another one that's interesting, I thought, was visiting a horse ranch. Um, I know this was interesting. So horses are associated with both Lu and with the Norse god Freyr.
Yes, horses were very, very important to the ancient Celts. So that would be, I
Yes.
never
And
thought about that.
I didn't think about that either. And I was like, oh, duh. So that's something even you can do. And something for the kids too. You can do like daily coloring pages. You can find like a Lu coloring page or Freyr.
Puka
There's
pages.
Yes, I was gonna say Puka Pages is amazing, amazing, amazing. And also there is a website, Little Pagan Acorns is amazing. They have little lap books you can make. They have crossword puzzles, word searches, coloring pages, and Puka Pages is amazing. It for all ages is so good. I can't. I've used them for years and years for my kids. And then, so you have that. And then you can also do wheat weaving, which I thought was interesting. So we've talked about the corn dollies, but you
Yeah.
can also do wheat weaving.
Um,
Um,
the Irish and the Scots take and they braid, and then they
yeah,
have the two wheat shafts stick up or
yeah.
stick down in a cross.
Yep, and it says braided wheat straw decorations are symbols of good luck and prosperity. They are part of the harvest celebrations of many cultures. They are often called corn dollies, which this specifically is talking about corn dollies. Um, but this kind of corn dolly is not shaped like a person. Also, corn dollies are not made with corn husks. In Europe, corn means a grain like wheat, barley, or rye. For a simple first wheat weaving project, take 3 wheat stalks of equal length, and then it just goes in to tell you how to do it. But um, it's not hard to do, and basically it just tells you to loop it around and press it. Now, some games while we're talking about crafts and activities, some games that you can do. So, traditional Gaelic sports included hurling, football, handball, road bowling, which I used to be a
Now,
bit.
football is soccer.
Yes. Well, this doesn't, it might be a typo with the author, but it doesn't say FUT. It says
Football is the English spelling. Football, FUT, is
the
more
soccer.
Italian, Greek, Spanish spelling of it.
Right. Well, that's how it should be spelled. Handball, road bowling, stick play, and wrestling. More familiar games well suited to this holiday are horseshoes, ring toss, foot races, tug of war, and sack races. So, and those are a lot of like fun things. And another idea for an indoor game, so you can play the board game Hi Ho Cheerio for like the younger kids, but instead of using the fake plastic apples, you can use real blueberries. And I
There you
thought that was
go.
a fun idea. So yeah, so I thought those were, I wanted to touch on those little activities.
Now, something else you can make that's probably pretty easy are scones.
Yes. Oh, blueberries.
Blueberry scones.
Oh man.
When I was in West Virginia, my cousin has had some in her freezer, and she says, "Well, she gets them from this store," and she says, "Well, we'll just have scones for breakfast." I was like, "Oh, cool!
Well, okay then. I'm okay with that.
Oh, girl, let me tell you, if it comes to food, her and I know how to cook it." Um,
Yes.
and some of the other fun things is like colcannon is a
Mhm.
traditional Irish, and of course you got the new potatoes coming in. So it's the potatoes with chives or spring onions, and then you boil cabbage and you mix it all together.
Right.
I'm not into that as quite so much, but it is really good. And if you go to any of the Irish festivals or the Scots festivals, the colcannon is usually there along with champs, which is just the potatoes with the spring onions. And that's how I like them, with just the spring onions.
Right.
There's a lot of things you can do. Remember what comes in the first harvest? You've got summer squash coming in,
Hmm.
zucchinis coming in. Oh my goodness. Jason he had a thing where he did zucchini pizza. Did you see that?
Yeah. Hmm.
He's all
Yeah.
the way up in there, up, north. I'm going to have to go up there and I told him, I said, you keep showing food like that, I'm going to be knocking at your door soon.
I know. Mickey was showing me her garden earlier, and she has a whole fence full of cucumbers and all the flowers. And she showed me, and then behind that, she has a bunch of tomatoes. I mean, a ton of tomatoes and squash and all sorts of stuff. And I'm just like, I'm so jealous. I'm coming up there right now.
I'm like thinking, okay, if
You're
she
on
has
like
the
a fresh.
cucumbers, onions, a little bit of vinegar, a little salt and
Yeah,
pepper, and that sits off to the side while I go over here and take the squash. Yeah, we could have fun with that.
yeah, buddy.
And it's
All right, I'm
whatever
hungry.
comes in when you're harvesting, it's whatever you get this time of year that's fresh from the garden, and that's what you make. So
Exactly.
it's not that tough. There's traditional things, the bread, because this is the first harvest of
Right.
the wheat, and I mean that is very traditional. But if it's not wheat, you can make cornbread.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Ugh.
I don't know if anybody. Oh,
Making cornbread.
girl, I like that sweet cornbred. Or you
Yes.
make, my grandmother used to take it and cook it like oatmeal, and it's called cornmeal mush.
Mm.
And then you fry it for lunch.
Girl,
That's
I have cornbread in my
a lot
pantry.
to cooking.
I have cornbread in my pantry right now. Whenever we're done, I think I'm gonna have to go make some.
I know. That's the worst thing. I mean, we do this in the evening,
It's
and by the
so
time we
bad
get
when
done,
we. I know it's so bad when we start talking about food, and I'm like, oh my god, it's so late. But it always makes me so damn hungry when we
it
do.
does. So we come up with some of these great recipes. Now, there's a ton of places to get recipes this time of year.
Yes.
Um, it's basically whatever your family would enjoy. Now, I don't know of anybody that doesn't love corn on the cob. I
Mm-hmm.
really don't.
My kids love
And
it.
fresh potatoes when you cook them on a grill because it's too hot to cook in the house.
Ugh.
This is the perfect time for cooking outside. So you
Yes.
can do that corn out there. You can do those potatoes out there. Even if you just have a fire pit, you can cook in that
Mm-hmm.
and have a little something to go with it. If you can't make bread, and trust me, I understand there are not people who, have the ability to cook. And I've met quite a few of them, trust me.
There are bread makers, though. There are bread
And not
machines.
only that, you can buy it frozen. You just bring it in and you just let it rise, and then you make
Yeah.
something. And
Hmm.
if you're doing it with the kids, this is the fun time that they can make something out of the bread. And if you want to, I just saw a recipe to take crescent rolls, um, cream cheese, and blueberries. Make the crescent roll, put the blueberries in the cream cheese, and then roll them up and bake them. Now, if that does not get your stomach juices
You have
rolling,
to
nothing
stop.
will. Um, I know, but isn't
I
that,
mean, yes, it sounds delightful.
and
I
that's
mean,
something that the
seriously.
kids can help do because it's really easy. I mean, I
Yeah,
had,
she only found out that she liked cream cheese last time
oh,
I
well,
did a crock pot meal.
my poor children, I had a catering business when the two youngest one were little. And so they had to learn how to cook from a very young age because, child labor is free if they're your own. You don't have to pay them.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I loved it until they got old enough to figure out they needed to get paid. But
Right.
having them in the kitchen, I had all my kids in the kitchen when they were really young because I grew up in the kitchen really young. So
Right.
it's just a form of sharing with them. So all the little stuff like they would make, you take the crescent rolls. I did not care what they look like, truthfully. Okay, kids, we're doing crescent rolls. You pop that little sucker, and you open it up and you throw it out there. Said, okay, roll them up.
I think it's funny whenever we do like the cookies, like the chocolate chip cookies, they rarely come out in like a perfect Martha Stewart circle shape. Like they're sometimes like weird shaped.
My kids used to take the dough and make things with it. We never knew what was going to come out. We had peanut butter cookies that looked like all kinds of crazy stuff.
Oh my gosh, we went to Goodwill like a while back and we found these. I'm finding them here and there, but I found them on separate occasions. They're like these tins and I'm trying to figure out cuz they're deeper than like a I'm trying to figure out what I could use them for cuz they're a little bit deep. They have depth to them, but not so much depth that it would be like a muffin tin, but they have like witch fingers and they have like vampire fangs and they're like so I don't know and they have like ghosts and they're like all these Halloween themes and they're pans that you bake, but I don't know.
You can
I'll
use
have
them
to.
for cake. You fill them halfway or three
They're
quarters.
small. They're small.
Yeah, but you can make
It's
cakes with them.
one big. It's one big pan with small
Small ones.
little.
Those
Yeah.
are great for cakes because you make them, and then when they come out, the kids can decorate them. And
I'll
if
have.
you use a white cake mix,
Yeah.
you can color it. So you can get flesh colored, like green fingers for the
Yeah.
witch. And then you can make her nail. You can actually turn it.
We'll have to use them for Samhain so we can play around with it.
I'm telling you, you can use red red icing. Give
Yeah.
her red, green fingers with red nails.
That would be cool. Yeah.
Or take
We'll play around with it.
an almond sliver
Almond.
makes a great nail for that kind
Yep.
of stuff. Oh, don't
Yeah.
get me started on salmon.
Oh yeah, we do that stuff. Yeah, we'll do we'll do that.
There's so many
But
things that you
there's
can
so many
do.
things you can do. Yeah.
So don't limit yourself and don't ever, I mean, I used to be like, if I'm catering, obviously my food's got to look good and everything has to be perfect because that's what you're doing. But at
Right.
home with the kids, when we were just doing stuff at home, it was like, okay, guys, have at it. We're making whatever tonight. And if they got their hands in it, it was great
Right.
because rather than making them, do it 100%, give them a little bit of creative, run with it. Um, if you're in the kitchen shouting orders like a drill sergeant, they're never going to enjoy it. But if you
No.
get in the kitchen and let them do their thing a little bit, they really get into what you're doing. And I love nothing more than to have a kitchen full of people and all of us cooking and
Mhm.
talking and sharing food and wine. And it just makes it like so cool.
Yeah.
And I
Well,
was
and
very
also if you
fortunate.
like, yeah, and also if you force your kids or you're wanting them to do something or you're like pounding it into their head all the time, then when they're adults, they're gonna have no interest in doing that. They're not gonna know how to do it because
And you don't want everything perfect. My
right,
thing is make it as weird as you can. And if you tell the kids that, they really get a charge out of it because in school they're told to do their letters perfect. They're told to do their coloring in the lines, that kind of thing. So you give them, okay, you got to cook it. Does it change the taste of it? No. So what
right,
difference? You know,
right.
I tell you what, our crescent rolls, I won't even tell you what mine look like because I
Mm,
can't roll one to save my butt.
right.
But,
I
you know,
have to have like the pre-cut biscuits that you That's me. I'm the frozen bread girl.
if
I
you
have
make
no
that
shame.
taco ring that Pampered Chef makes, have you ever made one of those with crescent rolls and the
No.
taco? Oh my gosh, girl, you want to die. That would be a really cool
You
thing
can make that next time you come. Okay.
for llamas because
Okay.
the bread. Um, make your meat like you're making a taco. Lay your Now you want to make it a circle, so you're going to lay
Right.
your squares. One end wide end, one narrow, one wide, all the way around in a circle. You put the meat in there, and you put some cheese on it, and then you pinch it closed, and it
Mm.
cooks in a wreath.
Ooh, I'll have
And
to look
then
it
you serve the sour cream and the
That's
tomato.
us talking about food. We have to. We
I
have
know. And
to.
it's really, and see, that would be a great llamas meal. And
Yeah.
that's something
Pretty
everybody
much anything that has flour in it, you can do with
you can
hummus
do.
or wheat or yeah, just go
So
for it.
just have fun with it. And don't make it, doesn't need to be picture perfect. My goodness. Some of my best meals look like, oh my God, we're really going to eat that. Shut up and eat it.
And
Um,
it's it's
gone.
represents the beginning of the fall season. Even though the first day of autumn, the autumn equinox isn't until the end of September, it technically that is how the Celtics celebrate it. Lammas, that's what it represents.
It's
My
our first
cat,
harvest. So this is when you want to have fun with harvest. Our second harvest is Mabon. Our third harvest is Samhain. So
correct,
you try to remember what you want to serve at each holiday, because
right?
this is the lighter of the two holidays. This is you're still in summertime. You still salads, light food. You don't want anything super heavy because it's still hot out. Um, Mabon is a little bit cooler. It's in September.
It's like a nice mix of Litha and Maybon. It's
Yeah,
like the in between.
and when you get to Mabon, that's our Thanksgiving. It's a little bit more intricate meal, and then Samhain, of course, is a high holy day. So you kind of want to go into
Like,
that one. When we get to Samhain, trust us, you're going to have all kinds of fun. But we're actually going to look at doing a cooking episode. I am, of course, a kitchen witch. Couldn't figure that out by now. So we're going to move into the kitchen for a couple segments so that you get to see, how much fun it is. And cooking is a ritual,
yes.
and it's a spell, and it's all that good stuff that comes together. So when you get in that kitchen, I mean, you see us, we're actually cooking here. It's a lot of fun. And I think that if you take it with that, you're going to run with it and you're going to have a great time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, this was another great show. Oh, and I forgot to do a little shout out during our commercial break. So, really quickly, for the Order of Hersini, I got the patches in. Woo! So, if you, I don't know if you can see it very well with the lighting,
Oh, it's
but
perfect. You can see everything. I love the little owl.
they are so pretty. And Lord Mike Neal was so impressed with how the design came out on the patch. He was just going on and on about how it came out. He was just
He's a
excited.
patch guy, so he does a
Yeah,
lot of patches, so he
he
knows.
was really impressed with how it turned out. So I thought that was really neat. So yeah, I'm super excited. Order of Hersini is the cannabis order for the Corellian tradition. The only requirement is for you to at least be outer court with the tradition. And it is searchable on Facebook. It is a private group. But it's Order of Hersini, Hursini. So if you're interested in that, it is to discuss the historical and medicinal aspects as well as the magical way to incorporate it in your spirituality. And we have fun and we're goofy in there too.
We have a lot of cool memes. If nothing else, come for the memes.
If nothing else, we have cool memes and we talk about, ways it can help also.
But no, that's really cool. Those patches really did. I have to admit,
Yeah, I'm impressed.
patches are hard. I used to do them for Boy Scouts, and you can only use so many colors. And sometimes a design looks really good on paper, but when it goes to being sewn on a patch, it doesn't always translate the way you think it's going to.
I mean, the purple is pretty dark on the black, but it actually like when you're outside, I think because you can see how it looks under the light. So when you're outside, I think it's really gonna pop, especially with that bright green like that. Oof. I'm excited.
I think
I'm
it's fabulous. So
yeah.
make sure you jump on and let Mylinda know if
Yeah.
you're interested.
Yeah, let me know if you're interested in a patch. Pre-sale is going on. Just Facebook message me if you want one, and then they'll be up on the Corellian website soon. I think hopefully, if not by the end of the month, early August probably. But yay, so excited! And
Thank you, Mike Neal. He does some awesome, awesome things for the
he
tradition.
does. He absolutely does. He's
If you haven't heard his name before, you're going to hear it a lot because we have a lustration coming up in October, and I'm only throwing that out there because it's happening in Jacksonville. It's one of the locals in Jacksonville, Florida, and it's in October. It's the weekend of the 15th, 16th.
yes.
Um,
It yes. It changed a tiny bit. It is
my
the
calendar.
15th through the 15th and 16th.
Right, but some of us will be there earlier,
Mm-hmm.
like on the 14th, and we're not leaving until the
Right.
17th. So
Right.
there's some of us that's going to be there for a while. But if you're really interested, again, that's a Facebook page.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you can pop on if you want. You can come into us, and we'll give you the information. If you can't find it anywhere, hop on our page, ask the question. We're going to try and get it on our page if we can. I'm not sure all the what
Yeah,
all has
we'll
to be
figure it
done.
out. And you can always message us. And of course, you can always, we'll always get the information for you. If you have any questions about the Corellian tradition or which school, even, we can always get the information or direct you to the people that you need to get to. And of course, if you have any suggestions of topics or teas that you would like us to discuss in the show, please feel free to message our Facebook page, Tea Time with Mother and Crone, or email us teatimemc@gmail.com, and that is time like the herb,
And
not
I am
really.
looking up right now. Somebody, oh man, there is another thing going on. I'm trying to find it. I have to find it now because I'm going crazy looking for it. There's another group. I know he sent it to me, but I can't find it. And I know you got it too. Lawrence is have
Oh,
yes,
Lawrence Lerner in Seattle is doing Pagan Pride on Zoom,
yes.
and that is, yeah, we just got this before the show. But I don't know if this has been, oh, yes, it has. Let's see. It is. One moment. So sorry.
Where did he send it? I thought he sent it in instant messenger.
So this is planning Pagan Pride online September 25th. 35 plus speakers from around the world. And let's see, planning presentations, crafts, and entertainment. Details of the online sessions. You can go to Puget Sound paganpride.com. That's PUGET sound paganpride.com, all one word. And that will get you to the information.
And where did you find that? Because I know he sent it to me, and I feel really bad I can't find it.
I'll
'Cause
send it to you. It was in a mess. It was in a, I think the CCF chat.
that's what I meant, and I can't find it. I've got so much stuff in CCF chat that I.
Well, that's fine. But thank you so much again for another great show. We definitely appreciate all of your support and
Oh,
tune in.
any good recipes, kind of just share because
Oh, yeah. Feel free to share the good
we're all
recipes
up
from
for a
your
good recipe.
grandma's secret bread recipe, cornbread recipes, all that stuff.
Yeah, we're not above stealing. I mean, borrowing recipes. So
Absolutely.
I'm out there with you guys. So that would be awesome. But if you've got a pagan gathering going on and you want to let us know about it, because Starwood was on, they did a hybrid. So if you've got that kind of stuff going on,
Just
send
let
it
us know.
to us and we will publicize it as much as we possibly can. So Just tell us what's going on. And I swear I can't find it. I know it's in here somewhere. He
Absolutely.
asked me
Well,
to.
thank you so much.